There is a kind of strength that doesn't move. The world calls it waiting, but heaven calls it worship. It is the sacred moment when you stop fighting to be heard and start listening to what silence is saying. You feel the world spinning, time pulling, the weight of unfinished prayers pressing against your chest. Yet somewhere deeper a voice whispers, "Be still." Stillness isn't weakness. It's surrender without defeat. It's the strength of someone who has learned that not every battle is won by movement, and not every prayer is answered by noise. It's the discipline of trust, to stop doing, stop proving, stop pushing, and allow God to be God. The art of stillness is not about standing idle, it's about standing firm. It's choosing to remain where peace tells you to stay, even when fear begs you to run. It's learning to rest while the storm still rages, knowing that the wind obeys a higher voice. Because stillness is not the absence of life, it's the presence of divine order. When you stand in it long enough, the chaos around you begins to bow to the calm within you. The human heart fears stillness because silence reveals truth. When everything stops, you begin to hear what you've been avoiding, the questions, the longing, the fatigue, the faith. And yet, that's exactly where transformation begins. The place where striving ends is where revelation begins. God is not far, He's just quiet enough for you to finally listen. So breathe, let the hurry drain out of your bones. Let the stillness wrap around you like morning light. For in the quiet, your soul learns what your mind never could, that heaven is not waiting for your movement. It's waiting for your attention. There are storms that never reach the sky, storms that live beneath the skin. They don't break branches or flood cities, but they tear through the quiet places of the soul. They come as restlessness, as sleepless nights, as the ache of not knowing what comes next. You smile in the daylight, but deep down there's thunder that no one else can hear. And the hardest part isn't the noise of the storm, it's pretending you're calm while it rages within. Stillness feels impossible when the inside of you is spinning. You try to pray, but your thoughts interrupt themselves. You try to breathe, but every inhale feels like a negotiation with anxiety. You think God is far away because He doesn't stop the storm, but maybe He's not trying to stop it. Maybe He's teaching you to stand through it. Sometimes peace isn't the absence of pain, it's the ability to stay present inside it. The storm beneath the skin becomes sacred when you stop running from it and start listening to what it's saying. It's not there to destroy you. It's there to reveal you, to uncover the strength that comfort kept asleep, to remind you that even chaos has limits under God's hand. There's a strange beauty in realizing that your heart can tremble and still trust, that tears can fall and still be faith, that the thunder inside you doesn't mean you've lost peace. It means peace is being tested, purified, proven real. And the longer you stand in that storm without losing your center, the clearer the voice becomes. Be still, even here, especially here. One day, you'll look back and see that the storm was never your enemy. It was the training ground for stillness, the sacred place where heaven taught you how to find calm, not after the battle, but in the middle of it. There comes a moment when waiting stops being punishment and becomes prayer. When you realize that the pause is not a prison, but a process. Every unanswered prayer, every silent dawn, every day that feels like delay, they all begin to form a rhythm. Quiet, but sacred, like the heartbeat of heaven itself. The world tells you that waiting means wasting time, but in the language of God, waiting means becoming. It's the soil where faith grows roots deep enough to survive the drought. It's the space between what you asked for and what you are ready to receive. Because sometimes the answer isn't late. You just aren't prepared to hold it yet. Stillness doesn't mean inactivity. It means agreement. When you stop forcing, pushing, or rushing, you begin to align with the timing of the one who sees beyond your horizon. That alignment is worship. It says, I trust you more than I trust the clock. It's not resignation, it's reverence. The patience that forms in that stillness is the proof of love. Every great miracle begins in waiting. Abraham waited for a promise, Hannah waited for a child, Jesus waited for the appointed hour. Heaven does nothing too soon, but it never arrives too late. So if you find yourself in the middle, don't despise it, honor it, because in the middle, worship becomes real, waiting becomes the altar where self-will burns away, and faith becomes the fragrance that rises to God. It's not what you do while you wait that matters most. It's who you become because you waited. And in that transformation, the waiting turns into worship. There's a silence that doesn't punish. It purifies. It strips away everything false, everything borrowed, everything that doesn't belong. It's not there to make you small, but to make you real. And though it feels like absence, it's the beginning of transformation. When God is quiet, He's not ignoring you. He's rebuilding you. He's sanding down pride, polishing patience, strengthening your roots. He's doing the slow, sacred work that noise would only interrupt. That's why the silence feels uncomfortable, because it's surgery for the soul. He's not gone. He's closer than breath, whispering through the very quiet you fear. The silence that shapes you will not flatter you. It won't give you quick answers or easy comfort, but if you stay there long enough, it will teach you how to listen differently. It will show you that truth doesn't need volume to be powerful, that love doesn't need proof to be real, that peace doesn't arrive, it awakens. Most people run from this silence because it feels like nothing is happening, but stillness is not inactivity. It's incubation. The seed buried in the soil doesn't panic in the dark, it grows there. The cocoon doesn't rush to become a butterfly, it transforms there. So don't rush your silence. Let it shape you. There will come a day when you'll look back and realize the quiet was never empty. It was full of instruction, full of forming, full of God. And when you emerge from it, lighter and clearer, you'll understand why He said, "Be still and know that I am God." Because knowing doesn't come from noise, it comes from stillness. Surrender has always been misunderstood. The world tells you it's losing, but heaven knows it's winning differently. It's not giving up, it's giving over. It's not defeat, it's divine agreement. Because the strength that matters most isn't found in holding on, it's found in letting go. When you surrender, you stop trying to control what was never yours to manage. You stop forcing doors that only open to faith. You stop fighting to prove that you're strong enough, and instead, you discover that strength was never about resistance. It was about rest. True courage is trusting God with what you cannot see. The greatest miracles happen when you finally release your grip, because hands that are open can receive what closed fists never could. It's in the stillness after surrender that you start to hear again, and in the quiet after striving that you begin to heal. That's the paradox of the Spirit. You win the moment you stop needing to. Surrender doesn't make life easier, it makes it lighter. You'll still face storms, but you'll no longer drown in them. You'll still walk through valleys, but you'll no longer fear the shadows, because when you've given everything to God, nothing left can be taken from you, only transformed. The strength hidden in surrender is this: what once broke you now builds you. What once frightened you now frees you, and what once silenced you now sings through you. Because when you surrender, you don't disappear. You become aligned with the one who never fails. So let go, not to lose, but to live. And in the letting go, you'll finally discover that what you thought was falling apart was actually falling into place. There's a moment in every believer's life when faith stops running and starts resting. It's the point where you no longer chase God through noise or fear, but meet Him in the quiet certainty of presence. That moment, that still point, is where heaven and earth touch without words. It's where faith no longer looks like reaching upward. It looks like standing still and knowing you're already held. Faith isn't built in movement, it's tested in the pause. When nothing changes and nothing answers, when the silence stretches longer than your patience, that's when faith stops being theory and becomes truth. Because faith that only works in motion isn't faith, it's momentum. Real faith still breathes when the world holds its breath. The still point of faith is not where you lose control, it's where you surrender it. It's where you realize that believing doesn't mean predicting outcomes, it means trusting the one who writes them. You stop asking, "When will this end?" and start whispering, "Teach me what this means." And that shift from demanding to learning is where peace begins to grow. You won't always feel strong there. In fact, you'll often feel exposed, fragile, undone. But those are the moments heaven loves most, because that's where the pretending stops and the becoming begins. Faith doesn't hide behind strength. It shines through weakness. It says, "Even if I tremble, I'll still stand." That's the beauty of the still point. It's not glamorous, but it's holy. It's not loud, but it's eternal. And when you finally stop moving long enough to feel it, you'll understand that the quiet faith you hold is louder in heaven than all your desperate prayers ever were. There comes a time when peace can no longer be negotiated. It's not the kind that arrives after resolution, but the kind that settles deep inside you even when nothing is resolved. It's the peace that doesn't need proof, that doesn't wait for things to make sense, that simply decides to exist because faith has learned to breathe without answers. You don't reach this peace through understanding. You reach it through surrender. When you finally accept that God's silence is not neglect but nearness, you begin to trust without needing to know. You stop trying to solve what was meant to be sacred mystery, and in that surrender, something miraculous happens. The noise inside you begins to fade. Peace that depends on answers is fragile. It breaks the moment life surprises you. But peace, born of stillness, endures everything. It isn't built on explanations, it's built on presence. It's the calm that whispers, "I don't know what will happen, but I know who is here," and that knowing is enough to stand on, even when the ground shakes. Faith will not always fix your circumstances, but it will anchor your soul. It will teach you to rest before you see the outcome, to breathe before you understand the reason, to worship before you receive the result. Because the peace that comes after the answer is ordinary, but the peace that lives before it is divine. So if you find yourself surrounded by questions that won't quiet down, stop demanding answers. Ask for awareness instead. Ask to feel the peace that holds the universe together, the stillness that shaped creation, the love that doesn't need to speak to be real. And when it comes, you'll know you found the kind of peace that no outcome can take away. Every burden has a lesson hidden inside it. Every ache, every delay, every unanswered moment, they all carry light disguised as weight. It doesn't feel holy while it's heavy. It feels unfair, endless, unnecessary. But one day you look back and realize that the pain that pressed you down was the same pressure that opened your soul wide enough to hold heaven. Stillness is where that exchange happens, where the weight begins to dissolve and the light begins to rise. You stop fighting against what hurt you and start learning what it came to teach. You begin to see that not all pain is punishment. Some pain is preparation. The silence, the waiting, the surrender, they were never wasted. They were the refining fire that turned heaviness into glow. There's a sacred moment in every heart when suffering stops being about endurance and becomes about understanding. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What for?" And in that question, something shifts. The darkness no longer defines you. It becomes your teacher. You start to glow in places that once only ached. God never wastes a weight. He turns it into wisdom. He never wastes a pause. He fills it with peace. He never wastes a wound. He transforms it into a window for his light. And when you finally stop carrying everything alone, you realize the load was never yours to bear. It was his to lift. The weight that turns into light doesn't leave you the same. It softens what was hard, strengthens what was weak, and clarifies what was confused. It makes you more human, more holy, more whole. And when the light finally breaks through, you understand that stillness was never about standing still. It was about standing open. There is a kind of peace that cannot be shaken. It doesn't come from comfort, from applause, or from understanding. It comes from roots that have sunk so deep into God's presence that no circumstance can pull them out. That's the gift of being unmoved. Stillness doesn't mean life stops happening around you. It means chaos no longer dictates what happens within you. The wind still blows, the storms still come, but your heart no longer breaks with every gust. You begin to realize that faith is not about escaping the storm. It's about learning how to stand in it without losing your balance. You can feel the waves crashing and still remain steady because your peace isn't anchored to outcomes anymore. It's anchored to presence. And presence doesn't change with the weather. You stop needing everything to go right in order to feel right. You stop depending on external calm to feel internal peace. That's when you discover stillness is not fragile. It's fortified. When you reach that place, even silence feels like power. Because what once would have frightened you now feels like proof that God is still in control. You stop demanding clarity and start walking with confidence. You stop begging for signs and start trusting the steps. Your stillness becomes a testimony, not of perfection, but of faith that refused to move when everything else did. The world won't understand this kind of strength. It will call it denial, indifference, naivety, but heaven calls it maturity, the calm that comes when you finally trust the author more than the story. To be unmoved is not to be unfeeling, it's to be unshaken. It's the moment your soul says, even here, I will not fear. Because when peace becomes your posture, storms become your teachers, and stillness becomes your strength. At the end of all your striving, when every question has softened and every tear has done its work, there comes a holy quiet, not empty, but full. It's the kind of silence that hums with eternity, the kind of stillness that feels like God exhaling through creation. This is where the journey leads. Not to noise, not to victory shouts, but to peace. The quiet that becomes glory isn't something you find, it's something you become. You begin to reflect what you've been seeking. Your voice becomes gentler. Your presence becomes calmer. You no longer need to prove that you've changed. People feel it when you walk into the room. You've become the living echo of stillness. Heaven has a sound, but it's not what you think. It's not thunder or song. It's harmony. It's the rhythm of a heart that beats in sync with God's. And when your soul finally slows down enough to hear it, you realize the quiet you once feared was actually His presence drawing near. The storms taught you endurance. The waiting taught you worship. The silence taught you faith. And now, all those lessons converge into one truth, that stillness is not weakness, but wisdom wrapped in grace. You have not been standing still, you have been standing deep. So breathe one last time in the holy silence. Feel the peace that no word can name. The weight has lifted. The noise has ended. What remains is light and life and love, all moving quietly, endlessly within you. And as the world begins to stir again, you carry the quiet with you, not as an escape, but as a reminder. Glory doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it just is.